Hello everyone and welcome to A Celtic World, the YouTube channel for Celtic fans all over the world. I'm your host for tonight, Stephen, and I'm joined by my other regular friend and colleague, Gav. And if you've listened to the show before, you'll know where we are located, but it's in the caption in case you don't. I'm in Sydney and Gav's in Malaysian Borneo. We're also joined tonight by a very special guest, and that's Gerry from Singapore. So how are you doing, Gerry?
Oh, good, Stephen. Thank you. Thank you for the invite. Great to be here.
And do you just want to tell us quickly where you are tonight or today or whenever it is?
Yep, I'm in Singapore, central Singapore, downtown CBD. But I always introduce myself by saying to people that, particularly when I'm in Australia, I'm an Australian citizen. So I went to high school in Hamilton, left the UK in 2002, and moved to Sydney. I was there for 13 years, and I've been in Singapore for 8.
Okay, so you're more of a Sydney guy than a Singapore guy.
Well, I tell people I'm Scottish by birth, Australian by choice, living in Singapore. So Australia's home. My son's there, so we'll go back there when the stint in Singapore is finished, whenever that is. I mean, I never intended being here 8 years, but it's an easy place to live in, an easy place to get sucked into, and I'm not sure I could get away with leaving the SingTims. I'm not sure they would let me leave the country.
Confiscate your passport.
Aye, exactly.
Okay, so thanks everyone for joining us on YouTube. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And please join in us in the comments if you can. It's always good to hear a variety of points of view wherever you are in the world. So we're going to talk a little bit about the game just gone against Kilmarnock. We'll move on from there. Gerry will tell us a little bit about the SingTims Supporters Club, and we'll interact a bit with your comments all along the way. We might touch on the upcoming international break as well at some point. So we'll just jump right into the game against Kilmarnock on Saturday. So it was a fairly comfortable win in the end. Celtic 3, Kilmarnock 1. First, we'll talk a little bit about the starting lineup. And I'll go to you first, Gerry. Any surprises when you saw the team coming out?
I don't think so, Steve. I wasn't 100% sure that Brendan would actually start Scales. I thought he might have gone with Cameron Carter, Vickers, and maybe tried him with Phillips. But I'm very pleased that he did. I think he's been outstanding since he's been getting a run. And Brendan's post-match comments, I think Brendan said that it's the biggest surprise he's had in his career. Liam Scales has been. So outside of that, no, I was pleased to see Palma starting as well. I thought Bernardo had done pretty well when he came on in Europe the other week, and I was hoping we'd get to see him actually on Saturday, but no, not overly surprised and pleased, obviously, with not only the result but the way the team played.
You're on mute, Steve.
Sorry. Gav, any surprises from your end? Maybe that Hatate had retained his place. There was a lot of people, as Gerry mentioned there, myself included, who thought he might drop Hatate after a fairly insipid performance against Lazio. Were you surprised to see him starting?
Well, I'll answer that question in a second. But first of all, I'm still basking in the warm glow of you introducing me as your friend and colleague. So that's awesome.
Oh, that's all right. Gav, do you not consider... Are we not friends?
I mean, it's never been made official, so I'm pleased with that.
Well, we're official now. I think that's what the kids say.
And the other thing,
we're official.
The other thing is, Gerry, you might want to tilt your camera down a wee bit because you're a bit blocked by your name and location, and we want your full face effect.
You want to see my Henrik Larsson top? That's all you want to see, don't you?
Well, that's pretty good too. Just so you don't get blocked behind your name there. Yes, as for the starting lineup, it was exactly the team I thought he was going to put out, to be honest. Although, like Gerry, I was open to seeing Bernardo. And I was thinking he might start him and drop either O'Reilly or Hatate or rest them. Stick him on the bench. But Rodgers persisted with Hatate, and that obviously turned out to be a good decision. That's why he gets paid the big bucks. I might have been tempted to say, on the bench, you haven't shown up all season. Stop acting a big time Charlie. But Brendan knows more about football. I'm prepared to concede than I do.
Yeah, marginally. So yeah, I mean, I wasn't expecting Hatate to start. I thought we might see Bernardo, who did show up well the latter part of the Lazio game, and I thought Hatate, it was just one too many poor performances to get another start. But it took him all of 22 minutes to prove that I talk a lot of nonsense with a quite stunning first goal to open the scoring. Really lovely bit of skill to knock the ball past his marker, and then he's running through in the defence and he sticks it in the corner. Great goal, Gerry. You enjoy that one?
Absolutely sensational. Loved it. I've watched it about 100 times, I think, since. It was just an incredible piece of skill, first and foremost, the drawback into Nottingham, and then, and what a composed finish as well. It was sensational. And, yeah, it was... I think I'd started Saturday by going to meet someone for lunch in the pub we watched the football in, and I was 4 pints of Guinness and a steak pie in by about 2 p.m. in the afternoon. So it was a minor miracle that I actually one got to see it and two can recall it. But yeah, sensational goal.
Yeah, and Gav, Hatate, do you reckon he played well overall? And it's always the first goal's always a crucial one in these games, isn't it? It just changes the entire complexion of the match.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly what we need from the likes of Hatate, isn't it? Like, wee bit of trickery, get past his man, and then he ran at them, really asked questions of the defence. And if you watch the goal, Palma and Kyogo both kind of pull wide, and defenders go with them. Like three of them either go with them entirely or are caught in two minds, creating the space for him to make that slightly diagonal run towards goal. And he ran through and smacked it into the bottom corner, which was amazing to see. It's delightful because as fans with our own short-termist emotions, we've almost, or at least I have, kind of started to forget what it's like to have a firing Rio Hatate in the team, and he just adds a whole new dimension. He's like, his factory settings are different from everybody else's, like way before the ball comes to him, he knows what he's doing and he tries to do it as quickly as possible. And it's the most aggressive thing he could think of doing, the most offensive thing, as opposed to getting the ball, having a picture and assessing your options. I mean, when he's on song, he's different class, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm still a little bit concerned about consistency from him. I'd like to see it 2 or 3 weeks in a row before we get over excited about him. But yeah, for sure, it was a great performance by him and exactly what he needed at the right time. So we'll move on and talk about the second goal now.
Before we move on from Hatate, is there not something else we ought to do?
Oh yeah, sorry. My apologies. We have a musical tribute to Rio Hatate, which will be, I can assure you, up to the usual high standards. So,
well, I'm gonna click it, and before we do, I'll say not only is it about Hatate, but it's a bit like Hatate. Where have I had some good notes on this, which I can't see now, but it's a bit like Hatate this season. It's a bit like Hatate this season insofar as it starts off a bit shaky, but gets better as you go along.
Military service, he played for Frontier. When we signed him, he looked around at Parkhead and at Leonardtown, happy to become a Tim. Didn't take a long time here to make his mark in his midfield role. Scored a wonder thunderbastard goal to break the hearts. 2 against the young Seth Cole. 3, oh Hatate, more kicks and flicks and tricks than any black belt in karate. Read, oh Hatate, sets the pulses racing like a quadruple strength latte. We all get frightened when he goes down to Brighton. We got him for some yen, now he's worth tens of millions. He's real Hatate, Hatate Rio. He's real Hatate, Hatate Rio.
That's brilliant, isn't it?
That was
Got harmonies
hilarious.
in there and everything now.
That was hilarious. That was very
We've
You
got
get
some
frightened when he
comments.
goes yeah.
That's exactly what we want to hear, Red Scotland. It's excruciating, but I love it.
Yeah.
Mickey Moynihan picking up on some of the lyrics.
Yeah.
Full strength latte. It's actually, he sets the pulses racing like a quadruple strength latte. If that wasn't a tortured enough rhyme.
Yeah.
And Frank Brennan had the sound down and now has the sound back up. So that's good to know.
I think my favourite bit was we get frightened when he goes down to Brighton.
Yeah, I'm going to definitely have to listen to that over again and see if we can get the boys singing that after the international break down the pub.
It's all a bit too complex, I think, lyrically for like a bunch of football fans. Really,
we've got a young team down there. We've got the young team down there now. We've got the under-12s that are leading the chants most weeks now. So
good range of vocals, though, I have to say.
Really. Let's move on.
Okay. All right, so we will move on to the second goal, which arrived in the 33rd minute, and another goal from Lewis Palmer. Really good strike. Probably got a bit of a break of the ball off Hatate or the defender, depending on your viewpoint, and stuck it away really well. Little bit of controversy over this one. The initial ball into Hatate may have been offside, but the issue is whether the defender or Hatate actually got a foot on it. So, Gav, firstly, good goal, good strike, but should it have been offside?
I still don't know, really. You saw that still with the line, and was it the official still where the line kind of goes through the lower part of his leg, and there seems to be no sign of the defender. I don't know. It's confusing as hell. And I saw somebody explaining it and saying actually the defender kicked it first, and it ricocheted back off Hatate and then broke the Palma. And Hatate was trying to get out of the way. Was he trying to get out of the way? I mean, the pass was meant for him. So I don't know. At the heels of the hunt, who cares? Nobody cares, mate. Went in, lovely goal. Happy with that. It's VAR.
It was a fantastic strike, and I've watched that several times. The defender definitely gets a touch before it gets to Hatate, and I read, and I think he was actually trying to pick out Maeda with a pass, not Hatate. And the defender got in the way and hit off Hatate. So, I mean, it would have been heartbreaking for Palmer if he'd had two in a trot that he had chalked off because someone else had got a touch of a ball that had.
I was surprised. I was watching it and I had the headphones on, watching it in my living room, and it went to VAR. And at that stage, my wife called me and distracted me, something trivial like parenting decisions. And by the time I got back to the TV, the goal was allowed and they were carrying on with the game, and I was shocked. I was sure it was going to be called off. Were you not expecting it to be chalked off?
Yeah, like I don't see. I mean, I consider myself to be quite experienced in watching the game of football, and I just don't see how it's not offside. All the arguments about whether the defender touched it or whether Hatate touched it, surely the offside is when it leaves the foot of the guy passing it through. Once it leaves his foot, if Hatate's in an offside position, and it looked to me as if it was, then I don't really understand why that wouldn't be offside, regardless of what happens after that.
Because you can't say he wasn't interfering with play.
Oh, that's right. If he's either active or not, and he's clearly active, and by the time the ball reaches him, he's offside already, regardless of who touches it. So I'm not sure. and I'm not too
just think
sure whether.
Sorry, Steve.
Yeah, no, on you go, Gerry.
I was going to say, I just think it's more baffling there's anyone sitting in a VAR studio anywhere that actually gives us a decision, to be honest. So that's a more baffling one for me. But I mean, we'll take it. It was a wonderful strike, right? And
something else that's also baffling some of the commenters, Gerry, is this. Is this going to be a feature?
I did put on a second cap while we went to the video.
So keep watching,
folks.
Perhaps every time we show a video, he might turn up with a new piece of merch on.
Team meetings before where someone gets a bottle of whiskey a night out, if they can accurately tell me at the end of it how many caps I wore, or indeed how many Celtic tops I wore throughout the course of the session. So.
Okay. Well, if you're going to change your top, remember to switch your camera.
No, I'm not changing the top. I'm not changing the top.
You'll be up in front of the employment tribunals or something soon. That's the case.
Yeah, so Gerry, we'll stick with you. Palmer, bit of a goal machine. Getting quite happy with how he's performing.
Yeah, again, I mean, I think for someone that's so new to the country, so new to the club, obviously you're hopeful. I mean, I watched some of the video before he ever of previous games before he ever put his hoops on for the first time. But yeah, I think if he can keep going the way he's going and he can keep chipping in with goals like that, then it's great. We've got more options now, potentially down both sides of the field than we've had for as long as I can remember, and just great to see some. I saw someone earlier today say, or read someone say that reminds him, just in terms of that ability to strike a ball like that, of Sinclair when he first came to Celtic. So if he can emulate that, then we'd be happy. I'd certainly be happy with that. So yeah, very pleased. Great to see some of the new. And again, I heard Brendan say, probably on Celtic TV, that it certainly wasn't his expectation that these new players coming into the team in the last window are going to make an immediate impact. So it's great to see. Great to see.
Yeah, Gav, there was a few concerns raised about his lack of pace, especially after the Lazio game. But he did show that he's got a little bit more in his locker than pace. He's certainly got a trick, and he certainly can go past a man, and he's got a great strike on him. It's probably first choice on that side now, would you say, with Yang dropping back to the bench?
Yeah, I'd say so. And I agree with what you're saying. I mean, so far, he doesn't look to be blessed with tons of pace, but he's definitely a player with a bit of something about him. He's got a bit of audacity. He's not afraid to reach for the heights. He looks like he's there for it. And, you remember when Cantona signed for United and he looked around and they were saying, "Are you big enough for Old Trafford?" And he was questioning, "Is it big enough for me?" You kind of get the impression he wants to create loads of good memories at Celtic Park for himself. He just looks like he's there for it, and he's going to bring the team forward. And I'm excited. I'm really excited to see what he does. I'm trying to think, what was your specific question? What was your question there, Steve?
I was just really, is that him nailed down that position now in front of Yang? Because it was probably, there was a few eyebrows raised that Yang got the nod against Lazio. But that's a couple of sort of poor games in a row he's had. So you would think from now on, really, it would be Palmer's position to lose.
Yeah, you would think so. I mean, Palmer has an end product. There's no question about that. We're going to see loads of that throughout the season, I think, more and more. Yang doesn't look like someone who's come to improve the team and to bring the team forward and to impose his personality on the team in the same way that Palmer does. So yeah, I would imagine Palmer's going to get the nod, at least for now. So that's great. The one thing I would like to, it's a bit of a tangent, but the knee slide is becoming a bit of a bee in my bonnet. I hate how the knee slide has become the go-to celebration. It used to be rare. Do you remember in the old days? It was reserved for some South American free spirit who just done something exceptional. and then he would do a knee slide, and you'd be like, wow, look at that. Now they all do it, every Tom, Dick, and Harry, all the time. Not only after goals of exceptional quality, but they do it after penalties and goal line scrambles. It really hit a new low this week. The reason I'm talking about it is that guy Lowry, who's on loan to Hearts, he drove a low ball across the box and it cannoned into a defender, off a defender into the net. Like it was an own goal. And Lowry thinks that entitles him to a bloody knee slide. You know, you don't do a knee slide after an own goal. You know, he didn't even score. So whatever happened to running and jumping and punching the air, like only Matt O'Reilly's trying to keep that tradition alive, albeit half-heartedly. What happened to running about with both arms in the air, or doing a wee backflip, or just a stationary, imperious look around the stands? All out the window because every bloody Tom, Dick, and Harry's doing a knee slide. You're not sick of it? Only because of the plastic pitches. That's the only thing that stops everyone doing a knee slide in Scotland.
Well, nobody will ever replicate the Christopher Jullien knee slide. He was the master of the knee slide. He managed to knee slide and do a pirouette at the same time, and that will never be mastered. The knee slide should have been retired after Christopher Jullien left. Kaiser in the comments is saying, and kids at parties are also doing the knee slide, and that's what I was thinking there as well. Your young kids at weddings doing the knee slide across the dance floor. So, yeah,
it's Peter Kay, isn't it?
That's the Peter Kay one. That's right. Yeah. So, so you glad to get that off your chest, Gav?
Well, it is annoying me. It's annoying me. Stop doing the bloody knee slide. Do something else.
So, Gerry? What's your method of goal celebration?
Certainly not a knee slide, that's for sure. If I did leg day in the gym today, if I got down on my knees right now, I wouldn't get back up again. So there's no way I'm doing knee slides, that's for sure. You don't want to see old fellas been having to get picked up when they've done a knee slide. So I think Jota's. I still think that's iconic. The Jota just arm up. I reckon if I was to celebrate anything like that right now, that's what I'd be doing.
I'd be doing the no-nonsense Brian McClare, pick the ball out of the goal, run back to the centre circle, encouraging everyone to stay focused. It's not about me, it's about the club. Secretly, it's all about me.
You're a traditionalist, right enough, Gav. Don't take the fun out of the game. Let them have a bit of fun. You're only young boys.
And you certainly can't be casting aspirations on Lewis Palmer doing a knee slide, because he has all those things that you said.
Yes, okay. I'll allow him, but not Lowry.
Not Lowry.
All right. So 2-0 at half time. Everything looking great. Not long after half time, we had a penalty awarded when Rio Hatate went down under a challenge, which was overturned by VAR. What did you reckon to that one, Gerry? Any problems with that decision?
No, I didn't think it was a penalty at the time. When we saw the replay, I thought, you've seen them given, right? Particularly for Rangers. If that was Rangers, that was a penalty for sure. But I thought it was very soft. I had no complaints about it being over. I would love them. I loved it stood as a penalty, but no complaints about it being overturned.
Yourself, Gav? VAR working?
Oh, no, I'm totally the same. Totally the same. Such an incredibly light touch, if indeed he felt it. Says he did. Clearly looking for it, though. I'd have been really furious if that was given against us. So, no, I didn't have a problem with it.
Okay, 100% penalty for me.
Yes, I knew you'd say that. Are you serious? I was expecting you to say, that's what VAR is for, Gav.
Yeah.
Get the decisions right.
I agree 100% with Gerry. I don't think it was a penalty. But if that's Rangers playing, it's a penalty and potentially a red card for the defender as well. So, yeah. So we'll leave it there. Yeah, I think you got it right. I don't think it was a penalty. So just after that, Kilmarnock somewhat against the run of play, getting themselves back in the game. There was a challenge on Greg Taylor close to the Kilmarnock box, which could have been a foul. The ball broke upfield. There was a bit of a tussle between Alistair Johnson and the big centre forward for Kilmarnock. Johnson kind of loses out the physical battle, and the boy squares it to the Kilmarnock player in space, who tucks it away. Pretty undeserved goal, I would say. Gerry, do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't think Kilmarnock were going to score at all. I mean, I thought we were. And to be fair, I mean, we should have been about 5 or 6 up at that point, Stephen. But I think no doubt that, I mean, Greg Taylor was fizzing after the game. Even they're asking him about his. I guess we'll talk about the third goal. But they're asking about the third goal, and he was still saying I was fouled and that was a foul. So I think there's a foul there. And I think if you watch, first and foremost, and obviously that was where the gap came from, where they scored the goal. But Alistair Johnson, Ali losing that tussle against the big fella, he thought about, if you look at it again, he thought about taking his legs away from him, and he should have taken a yellow for the team there, I thought. So if he'd taken a yellow for the team, then they wouldn't have scored, obviously. So, again... But it was a fair old tussle he had with a big man who must weigh about 40 kilos more than me, Ali.
As for the VAR story, how, do you understand the phases of play argument? Because, he loses possession, the ball immediately gets hoofed up the other end of the pitch, and they go on to score. Where does the phase of play end? Is that not the same phase?
I've got no idea. I would have thought so, though. I mean, I couldn't believe. I was screaming and saying, "No way, that's a goal. That was a foul to start at the start of that passage of play." So yeah, I didn't think it should have been. I thought again, never expected VAR to go back that far, but I reckon they should have. Gav, I don't know the rules, but if it was me in the VAR studio, I would have been going back.
I think the rules definitely permit them to go back that far. I think they're supposed to check anything in the run up to a goal. So I think it should have been a foul. I mean, the TV producers didn't spend too much time looking at it on replays and stuff. So we were left, making a sort of judgment call at first glance, but it looked like a foul to me. But I guess some you get, some you don't.
Very wise. So
yeah, not long after we go 3-1 up, and the game's pretty much put to bed. Corner from our left, swung in, Maeda with the head on, and Taylor gets on the end of it. First thing, Gav, what was Taylor doing in the box?
He was showing Dyson Maeda how to score from a couple of yards out.
There was no way he was getting his head on that to knock it on. That's for sure.
Greg Taylor. I mean, I'm glad they hadn't swapped roles, because Taylor wouldn't have been able to knock it on, and Maeda would have contrived to put it wide somehow or into the goalkeeper's welcome embrace, and we'd have all have gone, come on, how did you miss that? Because that's what he does sometimes. No social media pile on. I still like him. But what was I going to say about that? Why don't we score more from corners? That was a goal from a corner, and look how easy it was. So easy. Just stick a decent ball in, flick on at the near post, somebody there to finish it. It looks so easy when it comes off. Yet we've had 632 corners or something without doing anything. How can that be? Surely they work on that in training. Is Palma's arrival going to change that? And now we've got a few other central defenders. Are we going to start to get a bit more joy from set pieces and corners?
Yeah, I think you're probably answering your own questions there, Gav. The central defence.
Somebody has to. So.
Will certainly help. Palma with a decent delivery. We've not been snowed under with players who can cross a good corner in, and we've not had an awful lot of physical presence from our centre halves. One thing that's missed a lot of the time is that Cameron Carter-Vickers, although he's a great centre half, he's pretty small for a centre back. I think he's only 6 foot or just over, and he's generally been marked by a guy that's like 6'3", 6'4". So he's at a disadvantage straight away, and you've got the delivery's got to be great. So hopefully we have a couple of bigger guys coming back into the team with Nawrocki Nat Phillips is there. He's a big unit. If these guys get a game and we start getting some good deliveries from Palma, then we should score a few more goals from corners. But it is a bit of a frustration for sure.
I mean, are they going to get a game though, Steve? I doubt that they are right now. I mean, you're not going to take Liam Scales out of that team right now. And Liam Scales looks more threatening at a corner than anyone else right now, I would say. So,
especially with those overhead kicks.
and they've clearly been practicing that knock on from Maeda at the front post, because that was 2 or 3 occasions that they did that. So
yeah.
Well, that's the thing. If you're lacking in height and you're lacking in physical presence, you've got to get a couple of guys involved who perhaps not marked as tightly for that reason. And Maeda and Taylor would be 2 perfect examples of that. So yeah, it's definitely one from the training ground.
And just the bottom of his studs, or the bottom of his boot, just his studs.
Mm-hmm. All right, so a comfortable win at the end of the day. Gav, I'll go to you first. Who was anyone you'd like to pick out as a star performer, and you can give us your man of the match?
Well, I think the big news of the day was the return of Hatate and how he's so important to us, as is the return of CCV, of course. But I'd probably have to go for Hatate overall. And, well, we just mentioned Scales. You know, his story was becoming that he's filling in really well. He hasn't let us down when called upon. Isn't this great in our injury crisis that we've had someone step forward and fill the hole? Kind of with the implication that he's definitely going to have to take a step back when everybody's back. But he's putting in such good performances game after game that I think it's getting beyond that. I was thinking if Nawrocki had have not got injured, but had have delivered those performances, we'd be praising him as a great signing and what an upgrade on Starfelt and all of this kind of stuff. There wouldn't be still a vocal minority saying not good enough for Celtic, which there is with Scales still. Scales has a bit of a PR problem, I think, among some of our fans. He's not as glamorous looking, nor did we invest big in him. But on the evidence of his play and as a left-sided defender, he very much could be the best partner for CCV in central defence, regardless of who's fit.
Yeah, I think part of his PR problem comes from the fact that this time last year he was getting knocked out of the cup by Darvel with Aberdeen. He was part of that whole debacle, probably the worst result in the history of Scottish football. So I don't think that helped him. And you know, you're right, nobody was expecting him to do anything this season. We were all expecting him to be leaving the club before the end of the transfer window. And to be honest, if we hadn't had as many injuries in the centre back position, he probably would have. But I'll put this one to you, Gerry. Do you agree with that? Do you think Scales is now our first choice centre half to partner Cameron Carter-Vickers?
I think he is, particularly based on what Brendan Rodgers said, whenever that was yesterday, saying that he was the biggest surprise he's had in his career as a manager. He hadn't seen a lot of Scales and didn't know a lot about him, and knew that he was fairly far down the pecking order. But to have a left-sided, left-footed centre-back he needs and wants in the team, and he thinks he's been outstanding. So yeah, it's going to be a struggle to get him back out of that team if he keeps performing the way he's been performing, and rightly so. And I think it's a great story as well. You know, great that we can have someone like that who, Irish player we paid so little money for, that couldn't get around the team certainly under the previous couple of managers, I guess. Yeah, I mean, long may it continue. I'd like to see him chip in with a couple of headed goals as well this season. So.
Yeah, I think he's definitely in front of Lagerbielke now in terms of that first choice position. And when you consider that Stephen Welsh and Nawrocki are both still injured, and neither of them are in the Champions League squad. So he's really only competing against Lagerbielke and Nat Phillips. And with Nat Phillips not being our player, and the way things are looking just now, it's unlikely that deal will be made permanent at Christmas. He definitely, for me, is the first choice to partner Cameron Carter-Vickers. Certainly for the rest of the European campaign. And, you know, you've got to tip your hat to him because he's been really good. He's been excellent. And as the Kaiser's pointing out in the comments there, it's great to have a guy that could fill in at left back as well. If anything happened in game to Greg Taylor, because it doesn't seem like that Alessandro Bernabei is going to cut the mustard at all for us. So he could slot into that second choice left back position fairly easily too. So Gerry, I'll go back to you. Who was your man of the match?
I thought there were some great performances all across the park, and Maida obviously got man of the match from the at the stadium, but I actually thought Greg Taylor was my man of the match at the weekend. I thought he was outstanding, and it's great to see him coming back on a game. His first couple of games under Brendan Rodgers, I thought, this guy's back to what he was like the first half season that he was with us, or first season that he was with us. But yeah, I thought he was outstanding all over the park. All over the park, even scoring goals in the 6-yard box in a position he had no right to be in. So I think he's generally playing a tad more forward, I think, and seems to be given the remit to go and roam wherever he wants at times, it looks like. But I thought he was outstanding on Saturday. So Greg Taylor for me.
Yeah, and Gav, how much do you think influence Brendan Rodgers is now having on the way the team's progressing? Do you think this is now a Brendan Rodgers team? And do you think we can give credit for the likes of the form of Scales, the form of Taylor, the return of the Hatate we all know from previous years? Do you think a lot of that's down to how Brendan Rodgers finally getting to stamp his mark on the team?
I very much do, and that's why we're talking about this game. Contrary to what Frank Brennan is suggesting here, not content with being chief musical detractor, he's now trying to produce the show. A comfortable and only an expected win that for me doesn't merit 35 minutes of analysis and counting. Well, it kind of does, because it's even greater evidence now that Brendan is getting his feet under the table. We appear to be in a pattern of improvement. It feels like we're still only second gear, but with players returning from injury, key players finding form, some players blossoming under Rodgers and his style, new players starting to show us what they've got. I think it's all going in the right direction. And I think.
So I was just going to say, I think Mattarelli's another one that's moved up through the gears since Brendan's come in as well. I think he's already, you can see the difference.
And I said a few weeks ago that there's going to come a time, like by Christmas, I kind of expect us to be in full flow with the likes of Palma and perhaps Tilio causing mayhem. And if we go back for the Bromby striker, Matthias Kvistgarden, who does backflips, by the way, after he scores. Nice. If we go back for him in January, who I think we were very close to signing in the summer, our attacking options, which we've been lamenting of late, start to look pretty tasty. I mean, it's all too late for this year's Champions League, of course. There's always next year, after we've sold our stars and we're back to being young and naive, learning.
All right, well, we'll take Frank's advice on board and we'll move on from the game. Sorry, we spent so long talking about a Celtic game on a Celtic podcast, Frank, that, there you go. And we'll talk a little bit about the SingTims, and Gerry's going to tell us a little bit about that. But first, I think we're going to play a little video. Very good. Good to see
In
the
time
young
for
team leading the
that-
chance.
The young team are giving it Laldy, and change the hat for Frank as well. Just so there you go, Frank.
Yeah. So, Gerry, do you want to tell us a little bit about the SingTims in terms of the history of the club and what you guys are all about?
Sure. You had one of my. I'm on the committee of the Singapore Celtic Supporters Clubs, the SingTims. You had one of our other committee members on, I think, a couple of months ago, Gav, Big Robert. So if this is repetition, apologies. But the club was formed in 1999 by a few guys, and obviously the world's changed a lot since 1999. We didn't have Celtic TV. First couple of games these guys watched, they had minibuses and they had videos or DVDs or whatever they had, and went across the border to JB across the bridge because it's the only pubs that they would show the games for them. I think they saw their first live Celtic Rangers game or the old mob in JB. So we have this season. So I'm responsible for social media, and I'm pretty shit at that. We're getting one of the younger female members to take that over from me. She's been working offshore in Taiwan. She's back in country now, so I'll hopefully get rid of that responsibility. We have this season we're up to, I think, about 63 or 64 members of the club. Our all-time high was about 110 members. We were the first, and I still think the only supporters club in the planet that donate all of our subscriptions annually to the Celtic Foundation. So we've done a bunch of stuff and tried to do a bunch of stuff. When I joined, as I said earlier, I've been in Singapore for 8 years and been on the committee for the last 5 or so. And so in addition to the vast majority of money that we raise money through the sale of merchandise, and we've done a bunch of sponsored walks. That little picture behind me actually is a photograph we took during COVID times when we raised some cash and donated it to the foundation. But we also try and donate to some local charities and Catholic churches and stuff like that, particularly around about the Christmas time. So I sent Gav some other photos. That's me and the missus and my son in the Song Doon Caves, and that's actually Vietnam. The Song Doon Caves are the largest cave subsystem in the planet. At its widest point, if you could get a 747 into the caves, you could fly a 747 through those caves. So this is my wife's idea of fun, by the way. Me and the boy would rather have gone to the pub and drank some Guinness. But standard sign we have up anytime we're playing the Zombies. Always try and make them members only, or members and visiting members of CSCs from around the globe. And we've had 120, 130, 140 people to watch us play against the Zombies. That's just us with some other members in Haji Lane. So that's what I guess traditional Singaporean street looks like. I mean, we saw the video earlier, and it's all very schmick and all very new looking, but that's kind of what old Singapore looks like. That's a great street to go and get steaming in. That was obviously you probably recognise. Well, you might recognise me there, but you recognise Tom Boyd as well. That was pre-match hospitality at the treble. We were in. A couple of us in town for that game, and Celtic, for some bizarre reason, that cup final had leased the stadium out to some egg chasers to play some egg chasing game. So there was no hospitality at Celtic Park that season. So Tom Boyd not only graciously signed a scarf for us, but gave us a shout out on Celtic TV that game as well. And this is my return journey, sitting in the lounge heading back to Singapore. And Callum McGregor came in, and as did a few others. I think Gav's probably got the photographs. So I grabbed Cal and said, "Mate, can I get a photograph?" I gave up my chair for Sinky and his family on the understanding that I could get a photograph of him with the SingTims flag. And we had our. I thought you had. No, that's all right. I thought you had. No, that's okay. I thought you had one with our Irish. Janino and Scott Bain, but perhaps not. That was us doing that was the committee, as was then, out doing a sponsored walk in Singapore in COVID times. So we did 2 or 3 of these, and that's us got our, I guess, our Pulp Fiction kind of look on there. So 4 of those guys are still on the committee. The elderly gentleman in the middle, Harry Murphy, was a founding member of the SingTims. He's a honorary chairman now on the SingTims. Actually, if any of you have ever been to Southeast Asia, there's a chain of bars called Harry's Bar, and Harry and his mates about 25 years ago bought a pub and had no idea what they were going to call it. So one of his mates said, "Let's call it Harry's Bar." So Harry, the first Harry's Bar was actually that gentleman in the middle, Harry Murphy. He was. They sold the pub subsequently to a chain, and they decided they would keep the names all across Southeast Asia. Now you'll see Harry's Bars. 63 members this season, Mickey, to answer your question. As I said earlier, we have done a fair amount of fundraising for the Celtic Foundation and as a club. I actually on the foundation, not last Christmas, the year before, appeal, a bid for and was successful. Alcohol was involved in this, of getting a signed Kyogo top and a signed Jota top at the time. So that was my son's Christmas present, to a Jota and a Kyogo top. I think that one might be Bruni's, actually, which is a foundation that we made to the Celtic founders thing that Celtic were running. And that was, again, another trip, us outside Heritage. You may recognise that, obviously, the handsome guy on the right with the hat on is me. The other side of the flag is Matt McGlone, who many of you may know as well. So, in fact, this T-shirt, this Heinrich Larsson T-shirt was one of the alternative use T-shirts. So that's Matt's company. I just randomly bumped into him in Heritage and was having a couple of beers. Actually, I was trying to convince people that I wasn't Ange Postecoglou's brother because I had the dark top and the beard. They reckoned I was Ange Postecoglou's brother, and I showed them my Australian passport, and they're like, I'm like, yeah, bloody oath, mate. Me and Ange, Melbourne boys. The other 2 guys there next to Matt McGlone is Cal McIninch, who's a famous actor, or so I was told. Downtown Abbey, I think he'd been on for many years in many series. And the guy next to him, again, everyone probably recognises, becoming a very famous Celtic player, Tony Curran. So, yeah, that was just me randomly deciding that I should get as many people in a SingTims picture as I possibly could.
You're on mute, Gav.
I was asking, do you know Tony Curran? It'd be great to have him on the show if you have an in with him.
We could try. We had actually one of the. There's a couple of people who could potentially try to get on the show, Gav, but and I'm sure there'd be other people like. We did our president, Sean, was. It was his 40th birthday, and we decided we'd get a video done for Sean. So we went about with our begging bowls to see if we could get to do a video. And I went to Holy Cross High in Hamilton. I was a year below Paul McStay at high school, and Paul had come into the office one time to sign my opus, which I know you wanted to talk about the opus, but maybe do that quickly after this, to sign the opus. And I got him to sign a top for me. So we got that framed to present to Sean, and we decided we'd get a video done as well. So Tom Boyd graciously gave us some of his time. Sean's all-time favourite players, Paul McStay. Jackie Mack joined the video. A couple of other folk at Celtic joined the video, and we had Paul McStay to wrap it up for us, so very graciously. So I've got his number in my phone. We can always try and get him on at some point, Gav.
Wow. Very good. And here's the ubiquitous SingTims flag.
SingTims on tour. Yeah, we've got that's the travel flag. So that's not the That's the smaller one that they entrust us to go and take overseas with us when we go. Yeah, so I mean, typically we get anyone from the club going, we try and give them the flag. In fact, I think Robert's still in Glasgow just now. He's holding. He didn't take the flag with him. Should have. He's been at a whole bunch of games, but as you know, I'm heading over to see the Athletic Madrid game. So I'll make sure we've got the SingTims flag on tour when we go there.
Fantastic. Okay, so you mentioned the. Oh, sorry, I seem to be taking over hosting duties, Stephen.
No, that's all right, Gav. I won't take it personally. We're still friends.
You mentioned the Opus. Do you want to pull that over and have a talk us through?
Pull it over. It's probably easier to. I don't know if you can't see that. Hang on. It's probably easier if I.
Careful with the camera angle.
Steady now.
You can just about see that book there. Hang on, let me see if I get. So
see if I can make you bigger or something. No.
I guess this thing literally weighs about 50 kilos. It is every single one of these, and again you can't see it, so apologies for that. But every single one of these photographs is supposedly unique. They did 500 of these opuses when they published them. I think I was number 97 out of 500 on the opus. But one of the stories I told Gav, Celtic were in Australia. I was in Sydney in 2011, and we'd gone out for a long lunch, as you do in Australia, and we were steaming and decided we'd go up to the hotel to see if we could get say hello to some of the Celtic players, and there was a guy sitting with a Celtic polo top on, sitting talking to a police officer who had, he was obviously fairly senior by all the stuff, all the gunk he had in on his jacket, and I got bored after about 5 minutes and I decided I was going to interrupt, and it was Ronnie Hawthorne, who was head of security, and I said to him, "Excuse me, you with the Celtic crew?" And he said, "Yeah, I am." And I said, "Can I bring my opus up?" Which was down the office at this point in time, which was just about 500 metres away. And he said to the police guy, he said, "Hang on a second." And he said, turned to me and he says, "Have you got an opus?" And I said, "Yeah." And he says, "Where is it?" I said, "It's just down the street." So he said, "Yeah, go and get it." So I got 4 or 5 of us, hoofed it into the back of a taxi, brought it back up, and we get Scott Brown and a whole bunch of others to sign it for us. And then got asked by Ronnie. Ronnie said to me, he said, "Look, I've got Willie Wallace flying in tomorrow," and he said, "I'd love to bring him and John Clark down to the office. Would that be okay?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then I had this office at the time that was a shrine to Celtic with Celtic pictures everywhere. So I got an hour with John Clark and Willie Wallace. And again, probably shouldn't say this, but so all of the players, all the surviving Lisbon Lions signed the front page of these books, the 500 of them. And I got John Clark and Willie Wallace to sign their pages. I got Paul McStay to sign his page. And Willie Wallace says, he said, "Gerry, you're the only person on the planet that's actually got my signature in that book." He says, "I wasn't there at the time." He says, "John Clark forged my signature on those other 499 or 500 as well at the time." So that's, Singapore's not the best place to keep one of these because of the humidity. But so, and when Scott Brown came in, I said, "Can you sign that?" He says, "Where are the white gloves?" Because there's one of these at Celtic Park, and if the players are going to touch it, they've got to wear the white Masonic gloves. And I have a pair of white Masonic gloves that aren't so white anymore. They're more like they're approaching a cream colour rather than being a white colour now. So, but yeah, it's a fantastic. I mean, if it didn't weigh so much, Gav, I'd send it to you so you can have a look at it. So, if you've got some time when you're in Singapore, come and have a look. It's a great. Some of the photographs in the book are just absolutely sensational. In fact, at one point in the past, I posted a picture, I think it was on maybe Facebook or something, of the Celtic team standing at the start of just before the European Cup in '67, and I've seen that picture reposted many times by people now, and I can tell that it's mine because it's not, the lighting on it wasn't quite right because it's in a book that goes like that. Peter Latchford's old gloves, yeah, that's exactly what these look like.
Frank Brennan also harks back to your earlier mention. Yes, indeed, actor Cal McAninch, is that how you pronounce it? And his family were neighbours of mine way back in the day in Glasgow.
Yeah,
he was always Celtic daft.
He's still Celtic daft. Mickey, to answer your question, when was it printed? That was I guess an interesting story because, like the prior incarnation at Ibrox, the company that Celtic did a deal with went into liquidation. So I'd written off the money. I didn't think I was ever going to see the opus, and didn't hear anything for about 2 years. And this would have been, I think it was meant to go to print in about. Strachan was the manager. Gordon Strachan was the manager at the time, so that's when it went into print. And I randomly got an email which I from a Gmail account saying we're about to ship 2 years afterwards, saying we're about to ship your opus, and I thought it was a wind up. I was convinced that it was wrong, and I'd moved house in the intervening period, and we get a phone call from the lady that bought the house saying, "Look, there's a package here for you. Can you come and pick it up?" And I said, "Well, you just leave it at the front door. We'll pick it up. We're going out for dinner tonight. We'll pick it." She said, "No way, I can't move it." So my son and his pal, who were 15 at the time, I think, I said to them, "Go and run up there and get that package." They come down like, first and foremost, they ran up and said, "There's no way, we can't move it." And I was like, "For fuck's sake." I said, "It can't be that bad. Just go and stop whinging, go and bring it down." The two of them I think they're just about as hernia as the two of them carrying this thing. So yeah, it's incredibly, and it comes in the green and white is a wooden box that it comes and they ship it in. So, but this was actually, that was inside a wooden crate. So
very good.
So yes.
Have you ever seen an opus in real life, Steve?
I never have, no.
Robert Groom's got one as well, actually, Gav. So there's 2 opuses in Singapore that I know of. So
very good.
And where can we find you, the Singapore Celtic Supporters Club, if anyone happens to be in Singapore, Gerry?
So easiest way is just we've always got the details up on Facebook and or Twitter. Again, when I've got someone that knows what they're doing on social media, you'll find us on Instagram. We might even start TikToking as well. Let's see. But Muddy Murphy's is the bar that we are in. So we've even got, home away from home, Muddy Murphy's, best steak pie in the country, and you can get a roll and square slice while you watch the game as well. So, or square sausage, depending what part of the country you come from, I guess.
Sounds fantastic. All right, thanks for that, Gerry. That was great, very interesting stuff. We'll move on. We're just taking over the hour, so we should probably sort of try to wind things up a little bit. And we'll move on to our last bit, which is normally our social media recommendations. So, Gav, I'll pass to you to share with us your social media recommendation.
Well, mine's a video, which I'm going to click play on, and you may have seen it, but it's Chris Sutton completely owning Chris Boyd.
I mean, Michael Beale came in and make subtle changes to the way Giovanni Van Bronckhorst's team was playing. Giovanni Van Bronckhorst's team is a miles better team than this.
Should they have sacked Giovanni Van Bronckhorst?
Oh, no. There's you're wrong there. Because I didn't see. I thought if Giovanni Van Bronckhorst
I can't remember you shouting for Gio to stay in the job.
Let me tell you what I said. When the fans turn you, it's very difficult to turn it. That's exactly what happened.
I still can't remember you shouting for him to stay in the job. When the fans turn on you, it's very difficult to stay in a job. So your opinion was that was the wrong decision then?
The wrong decision for what?
To sack Gio.
At the time I said yes. If you'd have went and got a proper manager, and I don't think Michael Beale was that man. Anybody that turns up in the director's box at Rangers Football Club, goes to Rangers social clubs, poses for photos when there's a manager in charge that's under pressure, is not the right man for me. I'm sorry, it's not the right man for me. It's not the right thing to do.
That at the time.
Well, I did.
Oh, did you?
As I said, the performances have not been, good. And I think because you trail Celtic with 9 points as well. Even when Rangers are winning games, it looked as everything seemed to be a grind, and it just hasn't worked out. In recent months, I think last year when you look back at the run in Europe the Rangers had, obviously winning the Scottish Cup as well was key, because it was the first time in a number of years you were able to deliver a domestic trophy as well. But we're speaking about the here and now. That's all in the past. The here and now is Rangers have been struggling domestically. Europe was an absolute disaster, but as I said, domestically struggling right now as well. So it doesn't come as any surprise for me. The results, the performances have not been good enough. The results have definitely not been good enough. I think the obvious one at this moment in time would be Michael Beale. He's someone who obviously turned down the Wolves job not so long ago. Whether that was the right move or whether he had wind that something was maybe going to happen at Ibrox and he was prepared to wait for that, we don't know.
So there you go. That was Chris Boyd being a total hypocrite, saying that he was never behind getting rid of Gio and he was never behind the appointment of Michael Beale. And then video is showing of him doing both those things. So I thought that was good of Sutton to point that out. I mean, Sutton's, Sutton's an intelligent man and he's dealing with complete credence sometimes, like Boyd.
He's got him on a string there, hasn't he? You can see it. You can hear Chris Boyd's voice getting higher and higher and higher. He's getting up through the octaves there because he realised he was talking a load of pish.
I think you do cretins a disservice, Gav.
Which Chris?
I'm saying I think you do. I think you do cretins a disservice.
Oh, I see. Okay, here's a nice comment, by the way. Did you see this before we wind it up, Gerry?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Gerry.
No worries. It's it's one of those things that sits in that box. It doesn't see the light of day often enough, but I really do need to think about storing it somewhere that's that where the humidity doesn't get at it, because things have a tendency, as you know, Gav, in this part of the world to disintegrate after a while. So,
absolutely. All right, Steve, back to you.
So I'll just share mine quickly. Nothing as fancy as a video. This just takes us back to last week when Rangers lost to Aris Limassol in the Europa League. And this team from Dublin called Palmerstown FC tweeted out that even we beat Aris Limassol and we're a Sunday League team. And of course, the replies for the Rangers fans, and then this Palmerstown FC mob of they've been having them on toast ever since, really. We'll just bring up a couple of other ones just now. Here we go here. Reasons why Palmerstown FC are a bigger club than the Glasgow Rangers, more successful, bigger recognition. Muhammad Ali visited their home ground, where the biggest name to visit Ibrox was a Tina Turner tribute act. And then there was another one. Where was it? Just one more. I'll just bring it up as well. If I can find it. There we go. Fun fact. Palmerstown FC and Rangers were formed in the same year, 2012. So you can imagine the reaction, can't you? So that was loads of fun.
I didn't have any, but on that, I was just going to say I didn't have any, but on that point, Aris Limassol are 293rd in the European coefficient. Lincoln Red Imps are 149. Progress Nidarcon are 279. Aris Limassol share their stadium with 3 other clubs, and they played their first ever game of European football last season. So, yeah, I reckon they're right, the Palmerston Town boys.
It's a shocking result.
There's been a lot of great comments. It's a shocking result, isn't it, Gav? All right. Well, with that, I think we'll probably wind up the show. Don't forget to tune in Thursday night. Are we going ahead with a show on Thursday night, Gav?
Of course, always.
We never stop. Yeah, international break doesn't stop us. So please tune in on Thursday night and get involved in the comments again. Don't forget to, as I said at the top of the show, to like and subscribe to the channel, as that really helps us. So thanks very much to my very good friend Gav for joining me, and thanks very much, Gerry, for sharing all your stuff about the SingTims.
No worries. Thanks for having me. And so I saw someone said take a breath. I was very conscious of the time, so I was trying to get as much crammed in as I possibly could. So thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure, gentlemen.
It was great. It was
Thank
excellent.
you soon.
Oh, good. So with that, I'll
Take
just
care.
say
God
goodbye.
bless.
And hail, hail.
Yeah.